Dextor plays BattleTech Heavy Metal.
Welcome back to BattleTech Heavy Metal. We have completed all flashpoints. The career is over. So now I think we're going to do just one last pass through faction stores so that you can see what those are all looking like. So we are sitting here right now. We are in the Bromhead faction store. The Brockway faction store is identical. I did verify that before we got in here. So let's go ahead and jump into the Argo. We're going to go into the store. Just in system, you can see that this is not a bad place to be. They've got a lot of Banshees, Commandos, Locusts, things like that. They do carry a plus con system, a plus heat bank, and a double plus medium laser. Not the double plus I prefer. I prefer the plus 10 damage, generally speaking, unless I'm doing a crit build. But the faction store, let's go into that. So you can get the Annihilator A, 1A here. The 1A Annihilator does come with the BCS system, so you can get the ballistic damage of plus 20% and also a plus 40%, plus 40 on your defense. They also have the Assassin here. The Assassin, this one has the intercept system. So the intercept system does an ignore of 3 evasion. So it makes it a little bit easier to hit stuff. I don't believe this Atlas is special. What else is there here? The Rifleman C. The Rifleman C has a rangefinder suite in it, which gives you not only the plus 100 view distance, but also a -2 in the recoil penalty. That's kind of nice to have, especially if you're going to be doing something like this where they have the AC-10 builds. They've got the Shadowhawk D, which is my preferred melee mech. It is fast. It has a good quirk on it. So you can't see it here, but there's a quirk on it that gives a little bit more damage. So you can really kind of get that sucker out. And it also has 2 point defense, 2 support weapons to use for machine guns or whatever else you want to do. I use usually pulse lasers or damaged short range lasers. They have all triple plus AC weapons here. This is all ballistics. So all their double plus is accuracy and crit. So it's accuracy and crit, accuracy and stability, crit and stability. This is damage and stability, which is actually, I think, probably the nicest triple plus AC-20 that you can get. Just for this, it's 14 tons. Keep that in mind, though. They also have all of the Ultra AC cannons. The Ultra AC cannon here is a plus 10 damage. That's actually huge. It's almost a 50% increase on the damage. This is really nice. And on top of it, it's a -2 tons. So you get 5 tons to be able to throw that thing in. So you remember that Rifleman C, for example? So that's 35 a shot. This is 45 a shot. It doesn't get extra damage. It does have a minus on its recoil. So effectively, it gets, you have anybody in here who's got any kind of skill at it at all, and there's no recoil. It's very nice. And again, -2 tons. All of these are going to be minus tons. The UAC-10 is -3 tons. It has plus 10 stability. I mean, just strictly for the -3 tons, this is awesome. It is 120 points of damage downstream, so that's the same as that double plus AC-20 we saw. That's what this guy's doing, pretty much. Same thing. Which leads us now into the UAC-20, which is plus 20 damage. So it's a double 120, and it's -3 tons. So you're dropping it in for 12 tons. I mean, Christ, that's only 2 tons more than the UAC-10. That's doing 120 on its 2 shots. It's doing 120 on 1 shot. You can also pick up the mortar here. This mortar is a single shot, not a double shot that you'll get in the Bull Shark. See, I remembered. Bull Shark has the same sort of thing. It shoots twice, and its radius is larger. So the Bull Shark does have a better artillery cannon on it, but this is something you can throw in. I put it in like in an Atlas, for example, and it's not bad for doing a lot of damage all the way around. My general feel on mortars and artillery is it's cute. The reason I say that is, generally speaking, when it drops, it does all the damage to the backs of the mechs, no matter where it drops. You could drop it right in front of a mech, and the back takes all the damage. I think there's a problem with the mortar. It should, if it truly is artillery drop with shrapnel, it should do damage away from the center of impact. And maybe if you want to mess around with that a little bit, you can vary the center of impact a little bit within a center circle. So you can say, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get everybody, but if you do this min-maxing thing where you just get everybody on the outsides of the outer range, not only should they take less damage, but you might miss them altogether because there's a little variance on when this thing lands. I mean, it is artillery. It's not going to be absolutely precise. Could make an argument that that's the case in the future. All right, so that's the weapons. That's all of the equipment they have. That is the mechs that they have. So next, let's go take a look from the Davion one over to the up here, right? Yep, this faction store here. So this is going to be a faction store for the Free Worlds League, and then we'll go down here to take a look at the Canopus environment. So let's go here first. I will meet you over here so you can see what it looks like. Welcome to Thurrock. Thurrock is over here in the Free Worlds League. It is a both black market and faction store. We'll take a look at the black market too. I am at war with black market, so everything I want to buy there is 1,000 times more expensive. So that's bananas. Foggerholm is the other faction store. So each of these places will have 2 faction stores. Let's go ahead and take a peek. So in general, just in the system, Archer 2S. The Archer 2S actually has a Mercenary suite in it that's pretty good. The 2R does as well, except that the 2R only has 2 hard points and the 2S has 4 hard points. I can stick 4 LRM 15s into this, which gives me decent clustering and also gives me something like, what is that? If you get damage on them, that's 6 by 60. So 360 points of damage. The other thing you could do is you could throw SRM 6s in here for a total of 24, each doing 12 for 240. I'm not putting it all down, plus 70 damage. So you're doing 300 and something points of damage with the Mercenary suite, and because it is doing clustering, well, it's doing clustering on the LRMs. It's doing stab damage, actually. It's not going to do additional damage. So it's pretty good at knocking things over. I kind of like the Archer for missile support. I'm not overly a fan of it, but it's decent. So if you get it, go ahead and grab it. There is also, by the way, in the Flea, there's a targeting baffle. We have never seen this really, but it gives it basically a +1 hit defense. Makes it a little bit harder to hit. And then we've got in here AC2s for stab crit. This looks very familiar to the same that we saw back over on Davion, except these guys do have the LBX, and these are -5, so these are actually quite nice. And they have a UAC 10 single plus for 1.5 tons less stability damage. They've got the PPCs, and that's about it. Do they have any Gauss ammo? Nope, didn't think so. So if we look at we're going to skip that. We're going to look at the black I'm teasing you guys. The Annihilator is here. The Atlas DHT. The HT has a little bit more energy weaponry in it. This thing runs pretty hot anyway from my point of view. And it just feels like the Atlas is a great mech, but I spend most of my time, at least on my build, trying to get him into place when everybody else is already firing. And so even though the Atlas does 500 and something points of damage per alpha, which is more than the other 2 that I have. The other 2 fire more often, and so the overall total DPS it does is less. This guy's less. Then we also have the Bullshark here. The Bullshark M3 doesn't have the artillery in it. The other one does. I can show you that in my own inventory. Hatchet, by the way, is fairly new. He's got the axe that gives him a perk on his damage. The comparison between the Hatchet Man at 45 and the Shadowhawk D at 55 doing damage, the Shadowhawk will win every single time. So to me, within this weight class, it's a shame. Because the Hatchet Man is, again, and they did this with a lot of the mechs. They made them cute. They didn't really make them effective. It's not like that's the thing you gotta have. It didn't. There's an AC 20 triple plus here as well. The Snub-Nose PPC double plus for 10 damage is really good. Normally it says 15 times 5. That's 10 times 5. That's plus 50 damage. Huge. Very nice snub PPC. The heat, for me, the only PPC I usually will put in is a snub nose. If I'm going to go elsewhere, I might just go ammo and pick up a UAC-10 or something like that, which is less heat. It has the distance just as the PPC does, and it just seems to be more effective to me. This thing's also 7 tons, so hey. They do have the triple plus SRM4 here at the black market, the UAC double plus. So these guys are probably ripping stuff off from Davion and bringing it here. Here is my most favorite arm mod. The arm mod here for plus 60 melee damage for only a single ton and 5 spaces. You could put 2 of these on the Shadowhawk D and get 120 points of bonus melee damage. Huge, wonderful, big deal. Gotta get it. The cockpit mod for injury is nice. This is melee hit. Now, when it comes to gyros, you can get melee hit to hit defense, stability, and I think there might be a third, but there's certainly those 3. To me, the only thing worth getting is hit defense. The melee to hit it might be worthwhile to get in the beginning if you've got an unskilled pilot, but at the top levels, the type piloting skills, I don't miss very often, and I'd by far prefer a -3 to their attack to me getting the occasional +3. I'm getting attacked far more than I'm attacking melee. So to me, hit defense all the way. Stability is kind of nice if you're going to do a brawler, but even there, I think I'd go hit defense rather than stability. I mean, if you don't get hit, you don't get the stability. So I think because of that, if that's always going to be the answer, feel free to comment below if you think it's different. But if that's always the answer, I think that something needs to be tweaked. The rangefinder triple for 120 meters view is great, especially if you're building out something like the Headhunter I have. I have a Marauder with dual Gauss rifles in it. The range is really key because you want to see things far out and snipe them before they get in. And this gives you the range to see. Very nice stuff. And then the +3 ballistic. Let's take a look at the faction store for the Free World League. So they got the Archer 2S as well, the Banshee, the Black Knight, Centurions, Fleas, Griffins, Hunchbacks, Victors, and then they've got missilery. So this is going to be the missile place if you want to do missiles. Plus stability and crit, stab and crit, stab and crit, stab and crit. I'm disappointed, personally. Stability is nice. I mean, you can definitely make builds, and I've done it, where you bring in 2 missile boats, and the first boat knocks everybody down to a point where they lose their evasion and they're susceptible to being knocked down. You cannot, game mechanics, you cannot knock down a mech with a single missile boat. Not possible. You can max out a stability bar and it will not go down. You have to hit it with 2 different mechs. So in that case, what I might do is I build one mech out for all the stability damage, and then I give a second mech with just a little bit of stab damage just to push it over, to tip it over and knock him on his butt. The Narc missile here is decent. If you look at this, it has 75% damage. That is for missiles. So if you are having a missile-heavy lance, a Narc beacon in that lance will boost their damage by 75%. It's really big, but it has to be for the right kind of lance. If you're going all ballistic or energy, the Narc missile is pointless. And then you've got the cockpit mod here for injury. You've got a comm systems +4 gain, the triple. This is the best comm systems for resolve gain. You can put this in a couple of your guys, and that plus all the other stuff you might get from the Argo and your pilots. Generally, you're doing 1 to 2 called shots every round. Very, very effective, or you can do a called shot and a vigilance. They got the mortar here as well, and then they got the long distance rangefinder. All very good stuff here. The rangefinder I think is very worthwhile. The comm system is a good thing. Cockpit mod is great in your brawler. So like for example, I'd run this in my Shadowhawk D. I typically put the cockpit mod in there because he's going to get in there and he's doing hand-to-hand damage on somebody. He becomes a target. In fact, I use this a lot for my target acquisition missions. I will take my brawler in because he's built to be hard to hit, take a lot of damage, and resistant to being hit in the head and the like. So he can get in, hit that far section for marking, and get the hell out. That's what he's for. All right, so that's the list here. I would have liked to have seen some options in here for LRM damage rather than LRM just stability and crit. But other than that, it looks fine. So let's head on back out of here. We're going to go on down here to this faction store for the Magistrate of Canopus. Canopus Rex. Let's go take a peek at them, and I'll be right back. Okay, well, we've made it into our next place at early dawn. This is the Magistracy of Canopus faction. There are two of them, of course. Let's take a quick peek. They're fairly close together down in here. There's not a whole lot of space down here, so it's easy to see the whole thing. This one down here, I have been to as well, and it does have all the same good gear. All right, let's go take a look in here. There are a couple things, by the way. If you look down here, you'll see that there's former Star League presence. That's going to mean that the store in and of itself will have better gear, but the faction store will be the same. So it kind of depends on why you're coming in here. So let's hit the store. Here's the basic store, and here's the bull shark with the artillery piece in it. That looks like, and I'm just going to show you really quick what that one looks like. Come back. That's this guy in the background. There it is. Thumper cannon's right there. The thumper cannon has 2 shots. It says only a single artillery piece may be mounted. Kind of, at first, made me think maybe there's only 1 shot, but no, there's 2 shots out here. It does say the tonnage is 10 tons as opposed to the 7 tons for the regular, it's in here. For the regular mortar, it's 7x4, where this one is, I think, 10x6. 10x8. They both do the same damage. They do 10 to 50 damage area effect, and so it's pretty much all across the mech. Takes to 10 to 50. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't think it's just hitting the back. I think what I'm noticing is the fact that the back has so little armor, it's peeling it off, where in the front they're fine. So, yeah, it is just a general debuff. So I will reassess the thumper cannon. All right, back into the store. So they get the Grasshopper, Javelin, and a Phoenix Hawk. The Phoenix Hawk has, and I won't jump back into the mech bay, but it has vectored thrust. They don't mention it here. The vectored thrust gives you a longer jump range, which is really nice for the Phoenix Hawk. It gives us the capability to make this a DFA mech. I have finally found a build make a DFA mech. I'll show that to you before we're done. So I'll go through some of my mechs and I'll show that stuff to you. They've got the double plus laser here, double plus LRM. This is interesting for me because of the fact that I like to do melee builds. The support weapons fire after you do a melee attack. Nothing else can fire, but all their support weapons automatically fire, and you gain no heat. So you could throw in some very hot, like some small pulse lasers in there, and they won't generate any heat when you take a swing. So in this case, you'll be doing an extra 25. So on the Shadowhawk with 2 of those, that's an extra 50 points of damage that follows up after you've hit him. And in my case, I hit him for like 240 points of damage with a little 55-ton mech. So I can open somebody up, and then this comes in and blows things off. So it's very effective. And then the SRM-2 is fine, but they have TTS for missile and energy. I have found that once I get near the latter parts of the game, targeting systems are not worth it to me. The bonus to hit for the tonnage, I just cannot justify the tonnage loss. So in this case, for example, a +3 bonus to hit with my energy weapons sounds nice, but I'm giving up 3 tons or 9 heat, which is most of a medium laser, in exchange for that accuracy. Now in the lower levels of my people, when the pilots are just coming up, you sometimes have a hard time hitting things, and so you might want this, but not for me. Let's take a look at the faction store. So in the faction store, we do have the Awesome. Now this Awesome, no, this one doesn't have it. One of the Awesomes do have a bonus. We'll take a look at that later. We've seen the Bull Shark here with the Thumper Cannon. very nice. The Phoenix Hawk with its vector thrust kit, and here's the function. So you get plus 10% distance and plus 10% damage after jump. So it's a bonus to your firing, and it's whatever you're shooting. It could be ballistics, missiles, or energy weapons. All of them get a bonus 10% if you've jumped that turn. They do have the full variety of plus lasers. I like this. I wish that they had done that in the LRM list. Now I could pick what I want to build for this, or I could just go for the large laser here for plus 10 in accuracy. Very nice. The medium lasers is the same. I could go accuracy, crit, or damage, or I could just get a crit build laser. This is very nice when I'm trying to build out lasers that are going to be build out a mech that's trying to blow up the SRM AC stores. They also have the melee to hit, the hit defense, and then a 35, a triple plus gyro. I think there might be a triple plus gyro for the hit defense. I haven't come across it yet, but I believe there is, and that would be of course plus 4 defense. That'd be really nice. But this is great for stability. And then of course they have the mortar here as well. So those are the 3 faction stores I have access to. I have been able to get allied with the Free World League, the Magistrate of Canopus, and the Federated Sons to get to those faction stores. I haven't been able to do that with the other ones, though it looks like maybe if I just unally over here, I could probably work the Capellans up to a point where I could do that. I am not going to worry about doing it on this run. I just don't want to deal with it. So let's talk about the various mechs that were special in this build. We saw the Flea. They also have the Raven. The Raven has this EW equipment. I believe you can buy the EW suite with one of the other faction stores. Most of these bonuses, you can get a flavor of it from the faction store, like the mortar for the Thumper Cannon. It's a downgraded piece, but it goes into any mech. These can't be pulled out. This piece cannot be pulled out, and if this whole torso is destroyed, you get it back for free when you replace this whole section. But this is a very curious thing that, unlike all of the other pieces, this changes gameplay. It's fun to play with. It is something you really kind of got to get a feel for. If you panic, it does you no good. So what it does is it puts up an EMC field around you. That's the first bonus. The other one is the area sensor lock. So the area sensor lock is basically doing sensor lock as if you were a tactician with sensor lock, and it does it in an area of effect. And you can do that like once every couple of turns or so. It has a charging up speed, but it'll lock everything within its radius. The ECM field also puts up a bubble around the mech, and if you have any of your own friendlies inside that bubble, they get the ECM field protection, which gives them cloaking. So once you're in that field, you cannot be targeted. So you could have somebody 2 spaces away from you looking right at you, and if you're in the field and he is not, he cannot shoot you. It's kind of, I mean, if you maneuver correctly, you can really screw up people's day. The ECM field charge gets added if you start or end, I think if you end your turn within the field, and if you begin your turn within the field, you get the cloak. Firing or taking some other action like a sensor lock removes a stealth charge. Everybody who comes into your field can get 1 stealth charge maximum. The Raven can get 2. So he can do something and still remain cloaked. So he could take a shot at something and stay cloaked. He could do a sensor lock and stay cloaked. But if he does 2 things, then it's gone. He's no longer cloaked. The other thing is if the enemy gets anybody within the field, they can see all of your mechs within the field. There's a transfer of information from the mechs sitting inside the field to the ones outside, and now all your people can get targeted. So you really want to be careful about how you place the Raven to ensure that they don't get overlap. So that's that guy. Very effective. This little 35-ton dude can come into heavier engagements. I've heard people commenting on the engagement with the Bounty Hunter and the Black Widow, and they took in a Raven to cover their folks so that the other ones would shoot each other. Very creative, risky, because this thing is, tissue paper. It's a locust, so it goes down pretty easy. The assassin we talked about briefly about the intercept system. It gets a +3 to hit. It's very fast. Interesting things to do is to get one of these coil guns. The coil gun does 25 points of damage per evasion that you have. So if you run across the map and pick up 6 evasion and it can fire, this will do 150 points of damage. So it is not uncommon for this coil gun to do more damage than an AC-20, but you really have to be moving around the board a whole bunch. Jumping does not count, only movement. So you can jump clear across the map and it will give you nothing but 25 points of damage. The Phoenix Hawk we talked about is the jumped vectored thrust. We talked a little bit about the Archer's Missilery Suite. There is the Cyclops. One of the things interesting about the Cyclops is the battle computer it has. This gives everybody a +1 on their initiative. Sounds alright, until you start thinking about its weight class and realize, oh crap, all of those assault mechs that go in one and have like no ability to mess with their initiative either up or down, now suddenly have options. If you're going in 2 with an assault mech, you got some choices, and it's actually kind of nice. The problem here is it's really hard to build this guy up, and I'll bring this one up specifically. It's really hard to build this guy out with a lot of DPS. So you have to build them mission specific, in my opinion. This is about the best damage I could get out of it, dropping a UAC-10 in it with 4 or 3 medium lasers and an SRM set. I could actually squeeze it an SRM-4. I would suggest that with this, that instead of doing a bunch of heat sinks, you do at least 1, maybe 2 heat exchangers in it, and then try to go for double heat sinks. Might be better. Then you could upgrade your SRM-2 to an SRM-4. That will fit in there as well. If you go to an SRM-6 in the chest, you lose the gyro. I don't want to lose the gyro. The other thing in here that I thought would be good is the tag. I don't know if there's a tag plus or double plus, just like we saw with the Narc beacon. I think that would be great because this does bonus damage for energy and ballistic. Now that's 2 of the 3 classes instead of just the 1 class, which is missiles. This one I like because it's a ton. It's easy to stick in here. It doesn't cause a lot of heat, and it will mean that my other mechs I have in the assault class, I have like for example, I think it's the awesome. We'll go take a look at it. There's one I have that has 4 UAC-10s in it, 4 of these guys in it. So it's doing 2 shots of 60 for 120, 240, 480 points of damage ballistic. 480 plus 10 is another 48 points of damage. I mean, that's another large laser. PPC. It's quite significant when you consider that this is good for everybody who shoots at the mech that you've targeted. So if you really want a mech down, you target them with the tag, and then you start blowing things up. So I think that's the build for the Cyclops because of the fact that there's just not enough hard points to really kick out damage. So let's go up and take a look at a few more of the specials that came out in this release in heavy metal. The Battlemaster is just the regular Battlemaster. There's nothing interesting here. The Shadowhawk, let's see if I can find my... This is my Shadowhawk build for brawling. So the whole point of this guy is to get in and brawl stuff. He's also my DFA mech. I've spent 3 campaigns, I think, playing, and I've hated DFA. If you do DFA, if you jump on somebody, you take like 60 points of damage to your legs. You do that once and you're done. You know, not only that, but you get stability issues, you get knocked over, you get dead. With these leg mods on, with the -30, if you look up under durability, which is where you'll find the DFA self-damage, I'm only going to take 10 points of damage every time I stomp on somebody from a jump. I think this is really pretty good. In fact, I think this would be really good if on the Phoenix Hawk because of the distance he can jump. He can jump farther than the Shadowhawk. It's about the only thing he can do better than the Shadowhawk. And then you can see with the arm mods in here, I'm adding +60 or +120. I did do the hit defense and the cockpit injury thing, but if you look at my melee damage, I'm hitting for 205 points of damage. So this little guy is doing a lot of damage, and it's all going to be in one place. That means anything less than a heavy mech is going to lose something. Going to lose an arm, a leg, a shoulder, a center torso, a head. If he hits it, it's gone. And especially if I run into vehicles where I'm going to get an extra bonus. It used to be 2 times damage. You got an extra, it was twice the damage. I think now it's 150, but even 150, I'm doing 300 points of damage. I don't think there's a vehicle on the map that if I hit, it doesn't die. So that's a very effective build, I think, for brawling, is this one right here. I salivate for it every time I do my builds. I'm sure there's going to be a better build for the heavies and the assaults, but I just haven't dealt with it. We're going to take a look also at... Come back to that one here. The Annihilator is the one that has the extra damage, and that's because the BCS system does an extra 20 points of ballistic damage, or 20% damage. So, as I mentioned, this thing is doing 480 points of damage, plus 20%, which is another 96. So, in this case, I'm doing like 560 points of damage. Very, very damaging. Very, very hurtful. My Berserker here, my Bull Shark, I with the Thumper Cannon, I really built it out with the UAC-5s, the LBX-10s. He does quite a bit of damage at range. He generally can't do it all. He's doing 461. Pretty effective. The other one I had out here was the Atlas at 509, but as I mentioned before, I can't usually get the damn thing in consistently to fire. The last thing I have here is a Headhunter. Let's take a look at the Headhunter, and then we'll call this a day. So, the Marauder has a Lance command module built into it. The Lance command module gives a 10% reduction of damage to all hits that your Lance takes while it's up, which is quite nice. You get hit with 120, you take off 12. I'll take that any day of the week. But the other thing about this is it gets a bonus to called shots. So when I say I want to shoot something and it's going to be a 10% chance to get that part, it now becomes like 20-25. In fact, with a fully skilled out pilot with max tac, which gives you master called shot ability, he has a 35% or a 33, I think it's 35% chance for a headshot. If I take a specific called headshot, I get a 35% chance to hit it. With 2 Gauss rifles shooting every round, that means 2 out of 3 rounds I'm headshotting a mech, which has a number of benefits to me. One is salvage. When you headshot a mech, you get 3 pieces of salvage instead of the 1 or 2 that you might get because you blew all the other pieces off before you killed something. And the other thing about it is on the heavier side, heavier mechs, assaults and some of the heavies, a headshot, this is far more effective than doing DPS. If you look at the percentages of what you have to do to hit somebody and take them down with a cold shot on an assault mech, you're usually using 2 or 3 of your mechs to take down one assault mech. This guy drops one all by himself. The only caveat is because the Gauss rifle does a total of 80 points of damage, 75 directly, 5 internal. And by the way, the 5 internal with 2 of these means the 10 points, I can kill a turret without going through all of the armor. So the heavy turrets that have 200 and some odd points of damage, which I can't get through the armor, I still kill because the internals is only 7 internals, and I'm doing 10. So that makes that quite effective for there. I think in this particular build, the only thing is I would get 1 more Gauss ammo, but it's hard to find. The Gauss rifles are hard to find. So that's what I was talking about here is when you use the Gauss rifle, because it does 80 points, the maximum amount of damage you're going to see on the head is 16 plus 45. It's going to be a 61, which means a UAC 10 doing 60 is not going to kill it. Actually, it does 70. It could, but most of the other stuff won't with a single hit. This guy will take down anybody's head, single shot, even if they're bulwarked, for a 20% damage reduction, because at 61, 20% damage reduction puts them up to 73 effective armor, and this is still doing 80. In fact, I can do that and have a Marauder on the field knocking it down, so if I can deal with 30% damage reduction and still headshot something with these Gauss rifles. You just can't get the ones who are the guts guys, who do both guarded and bulwarked at the same time, and those guys have 40% damage, or even 60 if they're sitting in the forest, and you're not headshotting them. But, again, if they're moving and taking a shot, they're not doing all that as well. So this Headhunter has been disgustingly effective, but failed me on the final mission of Heavy Metal. I was able to take out the Black Widow, but the Headhunter got me. Just a lot of bad luck. Go look at it if you want to see that. So that's the tour in a nutshell of all of the faction stores and my Assault Lance build. I think the only thing I would change in this Assault Lance build possibly is to remove the Atlas and put in the Cyclops for its bonus in initiative move and its bonus on the tag that I put in it. That would, I think, make it a little bit more effective, because the Cyclops' total firepower with this comes out at 322, but if you look at the total damage of the Annihilator at 480, which is actually 570 or 550, plus this one that's 1,000 points, that means that this guy with his tag is adding another 100 points, which brings him up to 420 something. So he's in the ranges of everybody else as far as damage goes, but you have to play him tactically to get it. So thanks again for joining me. That's the end of this whole campaign run. We're going to go back into something else, as I've been talking about all the way up here. I'm still somewhat undecided if I'm going into another version of BattleTech, or just do BattleTech again with some challenges added on, or if I'm going to go into something like Rogue Tech, and Rogue Tech is brutal. But we'll see. Come back and join me. Thanks again. Take care. Bye-bye.
Creeping through the shadows and the corners of your mind. I go with the windows, I run but I don't hide. I hear the call of the wild, whispering the name. No, I can't be tamed. My heart belongs to the night. I'm alone, I'm alone, I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf. I'm a lone wolf, I'm a lone wolf, I'm a lone wolf, I'm a lone wolf, I'm a